Okay, I would like to give the floor to Leopoldo Resta and Andrea Valota. Leopoldo Resta is the CEO of Cheer Food Retail. Andrea Valota is the General Manager and Deputy CEO of Gruppo La Piadineria. We're getting into the food sector. We're talking about collective catering, let's say. Well, you never drink wine without eating something. So yes, that's right. Okay, so let's start from Cheer Food. Cheer Food Retail is a very large cooperative working in catering and restaurants. And how did this project start? Cheer Food is mainly about canteens, and it has a market both in Italy and abroad, and throughout its history, it has been experimenting. And the last experiment is the management of the Expo Milan 2015 catering services. And it was extremely successful, and Cheer Food on that occasion understood that it was up to the challenge. So it experimented with brands that had been designed especially for Expo Milan. In 2019, we decided to do something more concrete. We established Cheer Food Retail, which is held by Cheer Food. Before COVID, we had a 700 figure turnover due to self-service, canteens. We mainly managed the lunch breaks, let's say. So it wasn't really restaurants and evening meals, let's say. So together with this kind of activity, we decided to launch a portfolio of brands, acquire them and launch them. Brands designed by small and medium-sized caterers, and then give them a large size dimension. And this is what we're doing right now. In the last months of 2019, we started implementing this strategy. Then we were overwhelmed by the COVID-19 tsunami. I must say that this was a challenge, but the group decided to go on, and we continued our acquisitions during the COVID period. Sometimes acquisition was even made easier by the pandemic. And I must say that our courage was awarded by very good results, let's say. Of course, things are different from what we had initially imagined, but we're still here and we're having fun. Andrea, you are a well-established group on the market. La Piadineria was heavily impacted by this crisis. How many shops did you have at the time? Well, during the pandemics, we were able to continue our development. We opened 25 shops last year. In the first semester, we opened other 30 shops, and we are going to open 20 more shops in the next months. So give us some figures. We are at a our turnover is now, well, pre-COVID, we had a 100 million turnover with 80 shops, more or less. Today, our perspectives are very positive because we are recovering. Of course, figures are lower than in 2019 because restrictions, uncertainties have played a role. So in the next months, we'll see what happens in terms of smart working. The closure of shopping malls has heavily impacted us because people have gone back to the shopping mall, but now they spend less time there. We are checking this figure. There was a contraction of the time spent by consumers in the shopping mall. So people tend to eat less in shopping malls. And this is something we must work on. So you don't think you can recover from you can go back to the levels of 2019 this year? Well, that depends from what's going to happen in November, December, which is a special period for us. Of course, it will not be easy. So, Piadineria, you've been going through different private equity passages. So probably the holding period was longer, but the fund decided to go on with the project, right? Yes, of course. Well, of course, the pandemic has impacted the shops, but what about delivery? What was the impact on delivery? The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the digital revolution we've been talking about. With a digital delivery is a subsector of delivery. So the market of the traditional delivery market accounts for more or less 4 billion, while digital delivery is estimated around 1 billion, with a great acceleration and increase by 25%. So that means 21 and 25 over 2020. We're talking about apps, right? When I talk about digital, I talk about apps. And there is also a traditional delivery market, which is calling the pizzeria or the Piadina shop. And there's a guy who brings the food home. 80% of Italians now, during and after the lockdown, has decided to try home delivery. So this is something which should not be overlooked. So the fact that it is only 1 billion over 4 billions is only a kickstart we must work on. So in Piadineria, we tried to use this opportunity to start working on a change. This means a home delivery service, which is something which is now taken for granted by people working in the food sector. We must talk about how to make this mechanism effective and profitable, because this is an opportunity to get in touch with clients during a pandemic, during a lockdown, because they can't leave their house. But this also attracts new clients. But we must understand what really works, not only at the level of an individual shop, but also at a network level. We have shops for which delivery accounts for 30-35%. This means that a large group of riders is constantly standing next to the shop, and this disturbs the people who actually go to the shop and eat their piadina there. So we're working on a new concept of shop. We would like them to be hospitable for those who eat there at the shop and allow delivery. And we also work on the systems because we must design a system which allows you to serve, to give a good service to people eating in the restaurant, in the shop, and to people ordering their food for home delivery. So we are working on the digital part, on the architectural part, let's say on the logistics part, and on the digital part, because we must go from a multi-channel and a partially cross-channel experience to an omni-channel experience, something similar to what Amazon is doing, where you can switch channel. This means having structures which help us be effective. For example, an order must get to the kitchen in the right time, in the right place. So we must automate all of our procedures. So you must redesign them completely. Yes, all the procedures must be both physical and digital. They must take place in the shop and with the cooperation of riders and so on and so forth. All of this by meeting the needs of the clients. Customer satisfaction is our top priority. We must understand these mechanisms well and design effective systems. We're working on these projects and we're working on solutions which are easily implementable also by small retailers. And what about you, Leopoldo? Are you working on omni-channel too? No. Our brands are Antica Focacceria San Francesco, Pour Manger, e Piadinaro Calamaro. And we offer fish piadina. Antica Focacceria San Francesco is probably the most known brand. It is about Sicilian specialties, Sicilian food. And Pour Manger is a jacked potato. It is our most recent acquisition. Dates back to this year. So the first two brands, Calamaro Piadinaro and Antica Focacceria San Francesco, are the most traditional ones. They are very similar to a traditional restaurant. So we're talking about street food and restaurants, while Pour Manger is a local enterprise, which was founded in Turin. It only had 2 shops with brilliant performances. And we decided to acquire them. They are champions in delivery, and they are champions on social networks. Just 3 guys who've been working on this project for 10 years, and they were able to do something wonderful at the local level. And then we had to learn how to use technology, because before the pandemics, we did use technology, but we were mainly focused on sales, not on communication. And we were forced to boost communication and technology immediately when the pandemic kicked in. And then Pour Manger is something we're very proud of, because I'm really talking about 3 guys who've been working very hard for 10 years. And Pour Manger has never closed its shops. We use Glovo exclusively. It is our choice. because this makes communication more effective. We think that a sales channel works well if you give priority to marketing. So this is our vision. But Glovo, as all other platforms, did not cover all of Turin. And clients, when they were forced to be home, they wanted their piadina at home, wherever they lived, in Pinerolo or Moncalieri. So, because taxis were also stuck in the lockdown, we started a partnership with Taxi, and we used the taxi to extend home delivery to all of Turin and its immediate outskirts. It was a wonderful thing because it worked a lot. The client who was used to eat our piadina or a potato in the city center of Turin was able to enjoy our products at home. What is your total turnover, let's say, including all three brands? Well, 30 million of turnover in 2019. In 2020 and also this year have been quite complex. This year, the location leisure, which is not the center of Milan, but Calamaro in Riccione or Focacceria in Palermo, will have a turnover which is greater than in 2019. And then there's a shopping mall issue. And there's a sort of tenacity by the institutions to keep shopping malls closed and the contraction of the time clients spend in shopping malls, or the smart working in Milan. For example, the Focacceria in San Paolo is in an office area. So we are investing on this. We should close this year at minus 20%. So what about Piadineria? Are you thinking about segmenting the Piadineria brand or acquiring other brands? Well, in this moment, we think that we should continue with our brand instead of accelerating its extension. And this is due to the growth of home delivery, which must have a value proposition which is very clear for the client. We've been experimenting on something. For example, Piadineria Testing Free, it's a pilot experiment, a Piadina shop which is devoted to the gluten-free and lactose-free world. Of course, they have a dedicated shop, and we've opened this shop side by side to another Piadineria shop, and I must say that this is something very interesting, and the performance is quite good. So I can choose between a traditional piadina and a gluten-free piadina, right? Yes, and it's just around the corner. This is important because it helps us understand that the service and product that we offer can be adjusted to a market niche, which is a protagonist of today's market. So we've tried to react to this growth of the food on the go, keeping a good value for money proposition. So the prices are very similar to traditional piadinerias. So you can buy your gluten-free piadina, you can buy it several times, and for now, this is all. So you've got three brands, and your goal is to have half and half home delivery and physical shops, right? What are you going to do next? Are you going to invest abroad? Are you going to acquire some more brands? What are the perspectives for you? Well, yes, we would like to acquire some more, but we're redesigning our industrial plan right now. So we are keeping an eye on the markets. We are trying to understand how the pandemic will end. But yes, we have this number, 5, in our mind. So 5 brands in total. So we are planning to acquire 2 more brands. The brands I've been talking about are more high street. Focacceria has more margin in the travel world, and we call the segment traffic road, which is the areas at the outskirts of cities. Because this is more profitable, let's say, according to the characteristics of the brand. Well, the international market, we wanted to export our brand Focacceria to the United States, but we are considering that a little bit more. And what about Piadineria abroad? Do you think the market in Italy has had enough of Piadinas? No, absolutely. Absolutely not. We were talking about volumes of 50, 80 a year. But we are working on the international market as well. 2 years ago, we had started our developments in France, but we had to freeze because we opened in Paris, in urban Paris, and in the south of France. But smart working and the decrease of tourism flows have slowed down our development. We would like to recover sales in these 2 shops, and then we're going to continue our development plan in France and then expand into new markets. But before you enter a new market, a new country, you have to understand some dynamics very well. So our goal is, let's finish with France, and then we will understand whether we can duplicate this experience in an easy way. But is Piadineria going to be a European Piadina? Yes, our Italian the equivalent of hamburgers for Italy.